Hi everyone, and thanks for taking the time to watch my video presentation regarding the culmination of skills and learning that I've obtained over the course of 2 years in acquiring my graduate's degree in environmental management and policy with a concentration in fish and wildlife management. This video satisfies a portion of my degree requirements and supplements the digital portfolio I have developed using Portfolium, which is a compilation of all the major projects I have completed that showcase the skills and knowledge that I have gained throughout the program. In my PowerPoint slide, I've created a table with all the courses I completed and the major projects associated with each course that can be found on my Portfolium page. My core requirements were mandatory and consisted of courses in environmental management, environmental economics, environmental policy regulation and law, environmental ethics, environmental toxicology, and research methods for environmental science and policy. Each of these courses laid the foundation of conceptual theories that are essential to the field of environmental management and policy. Some of the concepts that I learned in relation to these courses include how environmental decision-making involves a social or human component that must be understood and taken into account, which means that the needs and wants of stakeholders must be considered in order to find solutions in conflict and reduce conflict. How environmental decisions and policy can affect the flow of money in our society, and how benefit-cost analysis can help in determining what decisions will bring forth the greatest net benefits with the least amount of negative externalities. I gained an overall understanding of the major pieces of environmental legislation in the U.S. and on an international scale. This understanding includes why they were developed, how they are enforced, and the results that they have produced. Some of the major pieces of legislation we investigated was the Clean Air and Clean Water Acts, the National Environmental Policy Act, the Endangered Species Act, and the Convention of International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. I also investigated how the values that people hold affect their relationship with nature and are dependent upon such things as experience, education, norms of society, and religion, and discovered how these values are directly related to their actions in terms of how they treat the biotic and abiotic entities of the environment. And I also learned how toxins affect humans and other living things, their transport and exposure pathways, and how they react with other elements. Some examples of my final projects for these courses include the development of an adaptive management plan for a real-world controversial environmental issue. In order to do this, I had to have an understanding of the adaptive management framework and use critical thinking to develop a plan in the face of uncertainty that could reduce conflict. And I conducted a quantitative analysis where I calculated copper toxicity in different mediums to humans and aquatic species and made recommendations as to what the best options may be for remediation. This leads me to the next section of my program requirements that include my concentration and elective requirements for the fish and wildlife management concentration. I had some option in these categories as far as what courses I took, but ultimately decided on wildlife management, restoration ecology, conservation biology, landscape ecology, and planning and watershed management. These courses taught me important concepts like how urban wildlife management is becoming increasingly significant due to the rise in human populations and development, which can help mitigate the adverse effects of human-wildlife interactions, how ecological restoration can help with the adverse effects of human activities on ecosystem functions and minimize the impacts of climate change on ecosystems, what measures can be taken to ensure the sustainability and enhancement of biodiversity through the development of such things as habitat conservation plans, and how by studying landscapes at varied spatial scales, you can see how the configuration of landscapes affects ecological processes and enables researchers to determine where and why problems may be occurring. For each of these courses, I produced a final project that can be found on my Portfolium page where I practice the use of critical thinking, qualitative and quantitative analysis, and scholarly research to prove my arguments. For example, I developed a restoration plan complete with goals and measurable objectives, an implementation timeline for actions, and a monitoring plan for my course in restoration ecology. I titled this project The Development of a Dynamic Conservationist because to be a success in the field of environmental management and policy, you have to be dynamic. When I began this graduate's journey, I wanted to base decisions solely on what was best for the environment and wildlife. But it's clear to me now that this, unfortunately, is not the best way to proceed with making decisions. Environmental management and policy is dynamic, so you have to be dynamic as well, and take into consideration not only sound science, but also the human element that's involved. Just as people can't be separated from nature, people also have to take into consideration when making decisions about the environment. This means looking into the things that are important to individuals and society as a whole, which includes the values people hold and economics. Because ultimately, in order to make projects and policies successful, we need collaboration. If the needs, wants, and values of people are ignored, it's unlikely that this level of collaboration will be achieved. So thank you all for tuning in to my video. I want to thank all my professors and classmates who have helped me through the past 2 years. Knowing that we were all in this together, I think kind of helped me keep moving forward, because there was times when I definitely felt like quitting, but I'm so glad I didn't. So thanks again, everybody. Bye.